Hello everybody, Siraz here, and today I'm going to be doing another replay analysis. Today we're going to be focusing on ZVP, on Steps of War, and dealing with early pressure is kind of the theme for this replay that I'm going to be going over. So, I know a lot of Zerg players, me included, lose to 4gates, and it sucks. Like, it's just... you screw up scouting it, or screw up dealing with it quite right, and you just lose, and it just is such a frustrating loss. And, oh, it just makes you want to kick puppies. I don't know. I hate it when I lose to 4gates. I usually don't GG, I rage out, all that shit. So, I know a lot of Zerg players felt the same frustration as me. So, this Zerg player down here, IA Cthulhu, I don't know, something like that, sent me this replay, and I think he's like a gold or platinum level Zerg, not exactly sure, I'd have to check on that, but, yeah, so, I mean, he actually sent me a replay pack. He had some pretty good ZVP games on some of the larger maps. I watched some of them. He had a pretty decent transition from, like, a Mutalisk build into Roach Hider Corruptor. That seemed to work out pretty well for him, so he played really well. But I noticed this game he did. This is the one game that he sent me that he lost on, and he did. And it was on Steps of War, and I mean, I already talked about early pressure, so he's gonna get 4-gated, right? I mean, no surprise here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, about some of the things, some of the ways you can scout out of 4-gate, and some of the ways you can effectively deal with it. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to deal with a 4-gate. And this is something I think you should really consider on this map, especially because being 4-gated is so prevalent on Steps of War. It's such a close rush position. You have to almost play a little bit differently on this map compared to others. Just due to the fact of how close you guys are, you need to, I think, play a little more not so eco-greedy, I guess I should say. So anyways, a little bit about this map. Let's pause this for a second, talk about the map. So, I actually think the biggest disadvantage of this map is just the small rush distance, right? So if you can survive into the mid-game, I think this map is actually really a good map for Zerg. And why do I say that? Well, easy natural. It's pretty easy to defend. Like, this natural isn't terrible. Especially if you can get creep out here. Defending at this ramp is pretty easy. Easy to take third. And then the golds don't have rocks or anything, so if you ever feel like you kind of get into a little advantage, you can take a gold, use like a tempo-based play, which, those you don't know, so say I take the gold, right? That's going to give me a huge economic boost to build more units and continue to pressure my opponent, or force him to attack me, so it forces a confrontation, and the longer it goes on, the longer if you take a gold, you want to continuously fight and force your opponent to lose units. Because the longer it goes on, the larger advantage the gold gives you. I mean, you'll just continue to get more and more units, you'll outpace your opponent, and that's kind of like what a tempo-based play is, right? So I think this map really is pretty good mid-game in this matchup. It's just the early game you have to watch out about. So, when you're playing ZVP on this matchup, why not think about, think about what can make you lose in the early game, and maybe change your play a little bit to deal with it accordingly. So, with that, let's continue on with this replay. Oh, one more thing I want to talk about too is Zerg air openings, or Protoss air openings, I think are kind of ineffective on this map. Also, just due to the fact that if they are scouted out, the Zerg player can get Hydras, and it's really easy to counterattack on Hydras on this map, right? So this is where the short rush distance is good for the Zerg, right? Who would have thought? But yeah, Hydras don't have to walk too far to get to your opponent, and that can allow you to, or make the Hydras just that much more deadly. But with that, let's get on with the game. I really like this scouting here by our Zerg player here, Blue Zerg. I cannot say that name for the life of me. I know I'll just completely wreck it. So let's talk about some scouting stuff you can watch for, and how you can see if there's a 4-gate coming. Well, big tips-offs here. This should scream 4-gate. Our Blue Zerg player should be like, oh my god, a 4-gate's coming, what am I going to do right now? I mean, it's 3 minutes into the game, and he should see it coming, and here's why. One, did you see the full energy on the command center? right? So obviously he's saving that to chrono boost out some stuff, and usually that's indicative of a 4-gate. You want to get out a lot of stuff as fast as possible. 2, only 1 gas. At this point, our Protoss player should have another gas. There's basically only 1 build Protoss ever does on 1 gas. And that's a 4-gate. If they go for like a Forge Fast Expand, it's 0 gas, right? And you'll see a Forge. So this screams 4-gate at this point. I mean, it was at like 4 minutes into the game, our Zerg player knows a 4-gate's coming, and he should be able to respond quite effectively and win this game. But he doesn't quite have the right response, as we'll see here, and it'll be kind of disheartening, but we'll watch this game out. So at this point, he should know it's a 4-gate. I don't know if he realized that, but he should know this is a 4-gate. And what should he do to defend against it? Well, there's 2 ways that you can defend against a 4-gate. You can either go speedlings with a lot of spine crawlers, like I'm talking like 4 or 5 spine crawlers. I think is an okay way to defend, and the way I like better is roaches and speedlings. Roaches and speedlings, I think, is the best way to defend against it. So he sees this. What should he be doing here? He needs to throw down that roach warren immediately. Get Zergling speed. This Zergling speed is a little late. I think you should take your extractor a little bit faster on this map because you need that Zergling speed early. And then maybe throw down 1 spine crawler. Looks like he's going to try to go for spine crawlers and lings here, as I said. But he doesn't quite have enough spine crawlers, in my opinion. He needs to start putting down more because you need to just crush this attack very, very quickly, and that's really what stops a 4-gate in its tracks. And well, that and the pylon, but we'll see that in a minute here. So if you were going to be going the roach defense, how do you do it? Well, you get speedling, right? You only need 1 gas for the roach defense, in my opinion. And then you put down the roach warren. Make sure you don't get supply blocked. And then get out about 10-12 speedlings. And you should have speed up before your opponent moves out, so you should have like 10-12 speedlings at like the 6-minute mark. This 4-gate's actually pretty slow on this map. And then what you should do is try and delay as much as possible. So you have these speedlings in front of his base. He moves out with stalkers and zealots. Well, he moves out. You should kind of move like over here, right? And then if he's either going to run this direction, and then if he runs this direction, you go for his ramp. And feint for the ramp, so he'll probably, you know, back up. So then you either, if you're going to make it, you run inside of his base, and you can delay him for like indefinitely almost with speedlings in his base. Or if he gets back there in time, you just kind of back up and sit over here. If he moves over here, you run up his ramp. You know, you just threaten to go up into his main. And you can delay a Protoss for a long time. And that will be key in defending the 4-gate. So when you're delaying, what you want to do is get out as many roaches as possible. Continue to build maybe some speedlings if you don't have enough gas. Get speedlings and roaches, get a bunch of them. And just get an army that will crush your Protoss when he moves out. Dead 4-gate. And that's how you will kill it with that way. But say, you know, you can't, say he catches your guys or stops you from delaying him, or just says, all right, I'm going to move out anyways, or gets a zealot to block the ramp, or whatever happens there, and you are forced to actually deal with this 4-gate when it's knocking at your door. How do you do that? Well, the biggest thing you have to remember about the 4-gate is this is what you need to kill when it's knocking at your door. This pylon here. It's so important to kill this pylon, as we'll see in this game. Yeah, he does manage to fend off this first attack. Very good. But you can never let up your guard until this pylon is dead. I mean, this is so key in this matchup. You have to kill this pylon. Got to kill it ASAP. Until, I mean, you have to kill it. The 4-gate's just not done until the pylon's dead, right? So, like I said, see, the pylon just continues to reinforce units. And this is why I don't like this sort of speedling defense. I have seen it work pretty well. But it's, one, he needs more spine crawlers to really pull this off. And 2, it's really hard to kill zealots with lings. I mean, they're just not good. And if the Protoss sees you're only building lings, he'll build lots of zealots and kill you. So let's talk a little bit about positioning as well in this, right? So one thing I wanted to point out is this could have been stopped by our Zerg player here, even with this defense, if he would have done one thing. If he would have just moved the spine crawler to this position, he would have been able to kill that pylon with a spine crawler, and that would have ended the 4-gate. But he doesn't do that. oh well. I mean, it happens. Mistakes happen. It's hard when you're trying to defend like this. I mean, it's really, really hard. It's nerve-wracking. You make mistakes at this point. It's a really intense game. So, then the other thing I'll talk a little bit about how you want to control your units. In general, if you're going this sort of defense, what you want to do is you have your links attack the stalkers, and the spines tank the zealots. So hopefully that will happen. Sometimes it'll not quite work out that way, but our Zerg player kind of screwed this up a little bit. So what he needs to do here is have these lings. Like when that battle started, he wanted to take these lings, move them to like this position, and tell them to attack, and they'd do a surround on the stalkers, and they'd do a lot better, I think. Obviously you don't want lings to fight zealots. It just is not a good matchup. Another thing I want to talk about for control is you have to be very careful with your overlords. So you want to make sure none of them get picked off by stalkers, because that will lose you a game right there. So you want to run those away as soon as you see this 4-gate coming. Another thing is your rally point. Your rally point should probably not be up here. This is a mistake of a rally point. You want to bring it back. So put it back down here somewhere, so your lings and whatever will not get, I don't know, not just run off on their own and die in stupid manners. And it'll help. It'll save you lings. Doesn't really cost this guy too many units, but it's something you can improve as well. So say you're going the Roach Ling build. How do you want to control it? Well, you have the Roaches try and tank the Zealots as best as possible, and then the Lings go after the Stalkers. And you can put, the Lings in one control group, Roaches in the other. You A-move the Roaches or tell them to kill the Zealots, and then you just try and do the same sort of surround with the Lings. It's kind of the best way you can control it. So let's just watch this out. Tries to respond with Hydras. This is the problem with Hydras. They're really good against gateway units. They come out way too late. So, we'll see that here. Another thing I want to mention is if you're trying to defend with Roaches, there's a couple of key things you can do here. With anything. One, you have to make sure your injects are spot on against a 4-gate. Otherwise, it'll cost you the game. I mean, it's so hard to defend a 4-gate without having spot on injections. So that's one thing you should focus on when you're trying to defend a 4-gate is make sure your injections are dead on. You get all of them, so you have all the larvae you need to build the Lings and Roaches you need to defend against them, or defend against the 4-gate. And then, 2, if you are going to layer by the time the 4-gate starts or whatever, sometimes that happens. You obviously, it's easier to defend if you don't go to layer. But if you do, crucial upgrade is Roach Speed. Roach Speed, very good. Makes Roaches a lot better against gateway units. So, just something to consider. But yeah, as we'll see here, I mean, this is pretty much over. It's pretty much over. Hydras come out too slow, basically, and also he doesn't do any kiting. If you're going to use Hydras against Zealots, you have to make sure you're going to kite them on creep, so Hydras can kite Zealots indefinitely. That's kind of the strength of Hydras against stuff like that. And yeah, see, I told you, every Zerg player rages against this sort of build. But yeah, I hope some of those tips and ideas and tricks will really help you guys scout and defend against 4-gates, and make your ZVP a lot more successful on this map. So just a little recap, how to scout for a 4-gate. 1, you look for the saved up energy. 2, you look for the 1 assimilator. 3, oh wow, this is actually a 5-gate, JK. So this is way more all in. I didn't even notice that. He added another gateway later on. But yeah, look, he hasn't even added any workers. He's been at 23. 3, look for the Chrono Boost on the Cyber Core. And then 4, if you're not really sure, if you don't get any of that information, you can take this Overlord and kind of poke around. At about the 5-minute mark is when you'll start to see those gateways go out for the 4-gate. So that's a good timing to scout it out with, right? And yeah, I think that's about it. Just remember, you want to put everything in defending against it and remember, until this pylon's dead, the 4-gate's not done. So you want to continuously build units. No workers, no nothing. Just continuously build units and defense and whatever you need until that pylon is dead, and then you are safe. Then you can go back to building units. So, all right. With that, I hope that'll really help you guys in this matchup. I mean, I know I still lose to 4-gates occasionally, and it's frustrating. It's a terrible loss. It sucks. You want to kick puppies every time you lose to 4-gates. I know the feeling. This is why it's frustrating to play Zerg. You see all these Zerg QQ threats. They're like, the races are OP. Well, yeah. Well, okay. They're not. I don't know if they're OP, but Zerg is just a lot less forgiving, and it can be very frustrating to lose this way. So, um, but yeah, with that, I think that's it for what I wanted to talk about with the 4-gate. I hope. If anyone else wants to see a replay analyzed, send them to siraztv@gmail.com. That's siraztv@gmail.com. Also, Zerg only. Zerg only at this point. I don't think I know the other races well enough to really do a good replay analysis, so Zerg only. I'd like to see a ZVT matchup. If anyone has any good or has trouble with ZVT, send me one of your replays. Also, I've been thinking about doing some live coaching. And if anyone is interested in that, definitely send me an email. I only have access to the North American server, so you either have to have access to the North American server or you have to have some way to get me access to one of the other servers to do this live coaching. And what I wanted to do was, what I was going to do was do a live session, stream it, record it, and then I'll probably upload it to YouTube. It might be a little lower quality because it's going to be streamed instead of just frapsed and whatever, but it'll still probably be like pretty decent quality. It won't be 1080p though, I'll tell you guys that right now. But I want to do it live. I thought it could really help. I think you can learn a lot more with two-way communication. So if anyone's interested in that, definitely send me an email. Also, if you're interested in that, it'd be good if you had a practice partner lined up so you can play some matches with him. And I can watch and do some live comments on those matches. If you don't, I mean, definitely you can send me an email anyways. We can work something out. Maybe they'll find two people who want coaching and we can, have them play each other or something. But, I mean, we'll figure something out, but it'd just be nice to keep that in mind. So if you can have someone who'd be willing to do that for you, that'd be awesome as well. So with that, hope you guys did enjoy. And Saraz saying, see you later.